There is a country where trains arrive with such precision that even a delay of a single minute feels unusual, almost like a quiet disruption in a system that rarely allows for error. A place where time is not just measured, but respected, where millions of people move through complex systems every day, and yet everything seems to flow with a calm that feels almost effortless. It is a country where cities glow through the night, filled with light, movement, and energy, yet somehow never feel overwhelming. Even in the middle of that density, there are moments where sound softens, where space opens, where everything becomes quieter, more controlled, more deliberate. Nothing feels chaotic. Nothing feels out of place. Beyond those cities, mountains rise and disappear into mist above deep cedar forests. Ancient shrines stand in stillness, surrounded by trees that have watched centuries pass. Paths lead through spaces that do not try to capture your attention, yet somehow hold it completely. These places are not designed to impress. They simply exist fully in their own rhythm. At first, everything feels calm, but the longer you stay, the more that calm begins to feel different. Not empty, not accidental, but constructed. Because here, silence is not just the absence of sound. It is something shaped, maintained, and protected. Beauty is not something that simply happens. It is practiced, refined over time, and repeated until it becomes invisible. Even the smallest gestures begin to reveal this. A bow held just long enough, a pause before speaking, the careful placement of a cup on a table. These are simple actions, almost unnoticeable at first, but they are not random. They are expressions of a deeper system, one that values awareness, restraint, and harmony in ways that are not always immediately visible. And as you begin to move through this country, from crowded train platforms to quiet temple grounds, from neon-lit intersections to narrow streets where nothing seems to have changed in decades, you start to notice something difficult to explain. Everything feels refined. Everything feels composed. Everything seems to work, but it is not effortless. Because beneath that beauty, beneath the stillness, the etiquette, and the precision, there is another layer, a quieter one, a more complex one. A story about pressure, about solitude, about discipline pushed to its highest level, and about the cost of holding everything together so perfectly that even its imperfections begin to disappear. This is not just a place you visit, it is a system you experience. And slowly, without realizing it, that system begins to change the way you see everything around you. And then, at some point, the realization becomes clear. This place you have been trying to understand, this balance between beauty and control, between calm and tension. This carefully constructed harmony has a name. This country is Japan. You arrive in this country with images already in your mind. Temples in Kyoto, cherry blossoms drifting in the air, Tokyo glowing endlessly under neon light, Mount Fuji rising perfectly above a still lake. These images are real. You will find them. But what stays with you is something else entirely, something less obvious, something you cannot fully capture with a camera, because the experience of this country does not begin with what you see. It begins with what you feel. It is the sensation of stepping into a place where almost everything has been considered, where details are not simply added, but refined over time until they become part of the atmosphere itself. You notice it in the air, cool in the morning, sometimes carrying the faint scent of incense near a shrine, slightly humid in the city, mixed with the quiet presence of concrete, electricity, and movement, clean in a way that is difficult to explain. Not sterile, not artificial, but intentional. You notice it in the sounds, the distant hum of power lines above narrow streets, the soft rhythm of footsteps on pavement, the subtle chime that signals a train door closing, the sound of rain touching wood, of wind moving through trees, of silence that is never empty, but always filled with something delicate and controlled. And then there are the small moments, the ones no guidebook prepares you for. A cashier carefully folding your receipt before handing it to you. A commuter asleep, perfectly balanced, as the train moves through the city. An elderly person quietly sweeping the entrance of a place that no one seems to notice. A vending machine glowing softly in an otherwise empty street. None of these moments are extraordinary on their own, but together, they begin to form something, a pattern, a rhythm, a way of moving through the world that feels different from what you are used to. Because this country does not reveal itself only through landmarks. It reveals itself through repetition, through consistency, through the way things happen again and again, almost perfectly, without interruption. The rhythm of trains arriving and leaving on time. The rhythm of daily routines unfolding without friction. The rhythm of people moving through shared spaces with awareness of others. Everything feels connected, not in an obvious way, but in a way you begin to sense more than you understand. And that is where the experience becomes deeper, because what you are witnessing is not just culture. It is discipline, a discipline that shapes behavior, a discipline that shapes space, a discipline that shapes interaction. At first, it feels natural, almost effortless, almost perfect. But the longer you stay, the more you begin to understand something important. This level of refinement does not happen by chance. It is maintained. And once you begin to see that, you cannot unsee it. Because behind every quiet moment, there is intention. Behind every smooth interaction, there is effort. Behind every beautiful detail, there is repetition. And slowly, without even realizing it, you stop observing this country as a visitor, and you begin to feel it as a system. Kyoto is often where the experience begins to deepen. Not because it is simply more beautiful, but because it feels more intentional. The pace changes almost immediately. The movement slows, the noise fades, and without being told, you begin to adjust yourself to it. Early in the morning, the city does not try to impress you. It reveals itself quietly. Light settles gently on wooden facades. Narrow streets still hold the cool of the night. A bicycle passes without urgency. Somewhere, a door slides open. A broom brushes against stone. The sound is soft, almost rhythmic. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels forced. In these moments, Kyoto is not something you look at. It is something you enter. You walk through spaces that seem simple at first, but the longer you stay, the more you begin to notice the detail. The alignment of objects, the balance of space, the absence of excess. Every element feels placed with care, not to stand out, but to belong. And that is when you begin to sense something deeper. Because Kyoto is not only aesthetic, it is spiritual. But that spirituality does not announce itself in obvious ways. It does not demand attention. It does not try to explain itself. It exists quietly, embedded in the environment, in the way spaces are arranged, in the way people move through them. You feel it in the stillness of a shrine courtyard, in the way footsteps naturally slow as you approach a sacred space, in the sound of water falling from a bamboo spout, repeating the same motion over and over again, in the faint presence of incense in the air, barely visible but impossible to ignore. Nothing is exaggerated, everything is restrained, and yet that restraint carries weight. Because here, nature is not just scenery, it feels present. Trees are not simply trees. Paths are not just pathways. There is a quiet sense that these places are meant to be experienced with attention, not consumed quickly. You begin to lower your voice without thinking. You begin to walk more slowly. You begin to observe more carefully, not because anyone tells you to, but because the space itself seems to guide you. In Kyoto, you start to understand something important. This country does not impose its rhythm on you. It invites you to align with it. And as you continue moving through temples, gardens, and narrow streets that seem untouched by time, the feeling becomes clearer. This is not just tradition preserved for visitors. This is a way of living, a way of seeing, a way of being, and it is only the beginning. As you continue through Kyoto, you begin to notice that these spaces are not isolated. Temples, shrines, gardens, forests, they all seem connected by something that is difficult to define but impossible to ignore. At Fushimi Inari, thousands of torii gates form a path that climbs into the mountain. At first, it feels visual, a striking image, something you recognize. But as you begin to walk through it, step by step, the experience changes. The repetition becomes physical. The space begins to close around you. The city fades behind you. Sound softens. Time stretches. What seemed like a simple structure becomes something else entirely, a passage. In other places, the experience is quieter, but just as powerful. A small shrine hidden between trees. A courtyard where gravel is carefully arranged into patterns that are never random. A temple hall where light enters slowly, touching wood that has aged over centuries. There is no single way to explain what you are feeling, and that is because here, spirituality does not follow a single system. In Japan, it is layered. Shinto, Buddhism, blended together over centuries. Shinto is not a religion in the way many people expect. It does not begin with a strict doctrine. It begins with presence, with the idea that something exists within nature, within places, within moments. That a tree, a mountain, a river can carry something more than its physical form. Buddhism, brought from outside and shaped over time within this culture, adds another dimension, reflection, impermanence, awareness of time passing, of things changing, of life moving forward, whether we are ready or not. These two ways of seeing the world do not compete here. They coexist, and that changes everything. Because when you walk through a forest in Japan, you are not just walking through nature. You are walking through something that feels observed. Not in a threatening way, but in a way that makes you more aware of yourself. That is why the experience feels different, why people speak more softly, why movements slow down, why even the act of walking becomes something more deliberate. You begin to realize that what you are experiencing is not just culture. It is a relationship between people, space, and something less visible but deeply felt. And this relationship does not stay inside temples. It extends outward, into streets, into homes, into daily life. Because in Japan, the sacred is not separate from the everyday, it is woven into it. And once you begin to understand that, everything you see starts to make more sense. As you spend more time in Japan, you begin to notice that beauty here is not fixed. It does not stay the same. It moves, changes, and disappears. And that is exactly what gives it its power. In spring, the country transforms. Cherry blossoms appear almost everywhere at once, soft and fragile, covering streets, parks, temples, and rivers. For a short moment, everything feels lighter. People gather beneath the trees not just to see them, but to experience that brief window of time when something beautiful exists and is already beginning to fade. And that is the point. Because in Japan, beauty is not meant to last forever. It is meant to be noticed while it is here. In summer, the atmosphere shifts completely. Heat rises. Air becomes heavier. Festivals bring movement, sound, and color into the streets. Lanterns glow at night, fireworks reflect over water. Life feels more intense, more alive, more immediate. In autumn, the country slows again. Leaves turn deep red and gold, covering mountains, temples, and quiet paths. The light changes. The air becomes clearer, everything feels sharper, more defined. It is a season that invites reflection, not through words, but through what you see. And then comes winter. Silence returns. Snow softens the landscape, covering temples, roofs, and forests in a quiet stillness that feels almost unreal. Movement slows, sound disappears. Space opens. The same places, seen in a different time, become something entirely new. This constant transformation is not just natural, it is central to how the country is experienced. Because here, nothing is meant to remain the same. And you begin to understand that this is not only about seasons, it is about perception. Gardens are designed to be viewed differently depending on where you stand. A path curves so that a scene reveals itself gradually. A frame appears through branches. A reflection forms only at a certain angle. Nothing is random. Everything is guided. Even simplicity is intentional. Spaces are often empty, but never incomplete. Objects are few, but carefully placed. What is not there matters just as much as what is. This is not minimalism for the sake of style. It is balance. And as you move through these spaces, through gardens, temples, streets, and landscapes that seem to shift with time and light, you begin to feel something that is difficult to describe. A sense that beauty here is not trying to impress you. It is inviting you to pay attention. And once you do, you start to see more. But Japan is not only what you imagine, and this is where the experience begins to shift. Because the image most people carry with them, temples, lanterns, silence, tradition is real, but it is only one part of the story. The rest exists alongside it. In districts like Gion, in Kyoto, you can still walk through streets where wooden facades, soft lighting, and narrow pathways create the feeling of stepping into another time. For a moment, everything aligns with what you expected. The atmosphere feels preserved, almost untouched. And then, something changes. A car passes, a delivery arrives, a door opens onto a modern interior, a phone lights up in someone's hand. The illusion does not break, it blends. Because in Japan, the past has not been frozen, it has been integrated. Tradition is still present, but it exists within a modern system that continues to evolve every day. Old and new are not separated. They are layered, constantly interacting. sometimes in subtle ways, sometimes in ways that feel almost surprising. You might walk through a quiet street where nothing seems to have changed for decades, and within minutes find yourself surrounded by bright lights, modern storefronts, and the rhythm of contemporary life. There is no clear boundary, no moment where one world ends and another begins. And that is part of what makes the country so unique, because it does not choose between past, present. It holds both. You see it in clothing, in architecture, in behavior. A traditional gesture performed in a modern environment. A centuries-old ritual taking place beside a busy street. A moment of stillness inside a moving city. Everything coexists. And yet, even within that contrast, something remains constant. The sense of control, the sense of order, the sense that no matter how different the surface may appear, there is always a deeper structure holding everything together. This is not contradiction, it is design. And as you begin to notice this balance between tradition and modern life, between stillness and movement, you start to understand something important. Japan is not trying to preserve the past. It is learning how to carry it forward. And that is when the experience becomes even more interesting. Because what felt like a simple journey through beautiful places begins to reveal something more complex, something built. As you move away from Kyoto, the experience changes again. The pace slows even further. The atmosphere becomes softer, more open, less structured by movement, and more shaped by presence. In Nara, time feels different. You walk through wide paths surrounded by trees, and almost immediately, the space feels older. Not in appearance alone, but in the way it holds silence. The air seems heavier with memory, as if everything here has been unfolding at the same rhythm for centuries. And then, you notice the deer. They move freely, without urgency, without fear, crossing paths, resting in the shade, approaching quietly. They are not placed here for display. They belong to the space in a way that feels natural, almost expected. People move around them gently. There is no tension, no sudden movement, just coexistence. And this changes the way you move. You slow down, you observe more carefully, you begin to adjust without thinking. At the heart of this space stands Todaiji. The scale is immediate. The structure rises with a presence that feels both powerful and calm at the same time. Inside, the great Buddha sits in stillness, not imposing, but anchoring the entire space. People enter quietly. Voices lower, steps soften. It is not a rule, it is a reaction. Because in that moment, you are not just looking at something historic, you are experiencing something that continues to exist, not as a monument, but as part of a living environment. Light filters through the structure slowly. Dust moves in the air. The space feels vast, but not empty. Everything seems to hold a kind of weight that is difficult to define. And outside, life continues. Children laugh, tourists move, deer wander. Wind passes through trees. Nothing is separated. In Nara, the past does not feel distant. It feels present. And that changes the way you understand everything you have seen so far. Because here, history is not something that has been preserved behind glass. It is something that continues to live quietly within everyday life. You begin to realize that this country does not simply protect its heritage. It allows it to breathe. And in doing so, it creates something rare, a sense that time is not linear, that past and present are not opposing forces, but layers existing at the same time. And for a moment, you are part of that. And then, at some point in your journey, you see it. Not on a screen, not in a photograph, not framed or edited, in front of you. Mount Fuji. At first, it almost feels unreal, too perfect, too still. The shape is unmistakable. A near perfect cone rising above the landscape, balanced in a way that seems almost intentional, as if it had been designed rather than formed. It does not dominate through size alone, but through presence. You notice how everything around it seems to adjust. The sky feels wider. The air feels clearer. The space feels quieter. People stop, not because they are told to, but because something about the moment asks for it. You stand there, looking at it, and for a brief moment, nothing else feels necessary. No explanation, no context, just observation. And yet, the longer you look, the more you realize something. It is never exactly the same. Clouds move across it, sometimes revealing it completely, sometimes hiding it almost entirely. Light shifts throughout the day, changing its color, its contrast, its presence. At sunrise, it feels soft, almost distant. At midday, it becomes clear and defined. At sunset, it turns into a silhouette, absorbing the last light of the day. The image you expected begins to change. And that is what makes it powerful. Because Mount Fuji is not just a landmark, it is an experience. It carries meaning beyond what you see. For centuries, it has been a place of reflection, of movement, of quiet connection between people and something larger than themselves. Not in an abstract way, but in a way that feels grounded, present, and real. You begin to understand why it appears so often in art, in stories, in memory. Not because it is simply beautiful, but because it feels complete. And in that moment, standing there with nothing but space, light, and silence around you, the journey pauses just for a second. And then it continues. Because from stillness, you move back into motion. Then everything changes. You arrive in Tokyo, and the stillness you have known begins to dissolve. Movement returns, light intensifies, sound becomes sharper, more present, more constant. The city does not ease you into it, it absorbs you. Crossing a street like Shibuya feels less like walking and more like entering a current. People move in every direction, perfectly timed, perfectly aware, without collision, without hesitation. It looks chaotic, but it isn't. Because even here, at this scale, everything is controlled. Screens flash above you, trains arrive beneath you, conversations overlap, footsteps echo against concrete, and yet nothing feels out of place. The system holds. Tokyo is not calm in the way Kyoto is, but it is not disorder either. It is precision at speed. You begin to notice it in small ways. People stand exactly where they should on platforms. Lines form naturally. Movements adjust without words. Space is shared but rarely invaded. No one tells you what to do, and yet everything works. The city is dense but never collapsing, fast but never uncontrolled, alive but never overwhelming in the way you might expect. Because underneath the surface, the same thing remains: discipline. It is just expressed differently. In Kyoto, it slows you down. In Tokyo, it keeps everything moving. And as you move through the city, between narrow streets filled with small restaurants and wide avenues covered in light, you begin to feel something familiar. The same structure, the same invisible system, just operating at a completely different scale. The longer you stay in Tokyo, the more one thing becomes clear. None of this is accidental. The trains run on time because thousands of people maintain that precision, every day without exception. The streets stay clean because responsibility is shared, not enforced. Service feels seamless because attention to detail is not optional. Everything works because people make it work. This is not just organization, it is discipline. A discipline that shapes behavior long before it becomes visible. You see it in the way people wait, in the way they move, in the way they adjust without needing to be told. No one is directing the system in real time, and yet it runs because the rules are already understood. There is a quiet agreement that holds everything together, an understanding that space is shared, that time matters, that your actions affect others. It is subtle, but it is constant, and this is what creates that feeling you noticed from the beginning, that sense that everything is smooth, that everything flows, not because it is easy, but because it is maintained every day at every level. You begin to realize that what looks effortless from the outside is built on repetition, awareness, and consistency. And that changes how you see the country. Because this is not just efficiency, it is structure. A structure strong enough to support millions of people moving at speed without collapse. But as with everything you have seen so far, there is another side to it. But this level of order comes at a cost. It is not something you notice immediately. It does not appear in the images people share. It is not visible in the places you visit, but it is there. You begin to see it in small details. In the tired commuter asleep on the train, still in formal clothes, long after the day should have ended. In the quiet intensity of people moving through their routines without pause, in the sense that time is not always your own. Work here is not just a responsibility, it is a commitment. Long hours are common. Expectations are rarely spoken, but always understood. Effort is not something you display, it is something you sustain. And because everything functions so well on the surface, the pressure remains mostly invisible. There is even a word for when that pressure goes too far: karoshi. Death from overwork. It is not a common experience. But the fact that the word exists says something important because it reveals the intensity behind the system. From the outside, it feels perfect. From within, it can feel relentless. This is not a contradiction. It is the other side of the same structure. The same discipline that creates efficiency also creates expectation. The same attention to detail can become constant pressure, and yet the system continues because it is not built on shortcuts. It is built on endurance. And that is where the story becomes more complex. But this level of order comes at a cost. It is not something you see immediately. It does not appear in the images people share, and it rarely shows itself in the places you visit. But as you spend more time here, you begin to notice small signs. A commuter asleep on the train, still in formal clothes, long after the day should have ended. The quiet focus of people moving through their routines without pause. The feeling that time is structured and not always your own. Work here is not just a task. It is a responsibility that extends beyond the individual. Expectations are often unspoken, but clearly understood. Effort is not something to display. It is something to maintain consistently, day after day. And because everything appears so smooth on the surface, the pressure remains mostly invisible. There is even a word for when that pressure goes too far: karoshi, death from overwork. It is not something you encounter directly as a visitor, but the existence of the word reveals something important. It points to the intensity behind the system, to the level of commitment required to sustain it. From the outside, it feels efficient. From within, it can feel demanding. This is not a contradiction. It is part of the same structure. The same discipline that allows everything to function also creates expectation. The same consistency that produces stability requires constant effort. And yet, the system continues. Because it is not built on shortcuts. It is built on endurance. And that is where the experience begins to shift again. Not all pressure is visible, and not all of it is shared. As you continue moving through the country, you begin to notice another kind of silence. Not the peaceful silence of temples or forests, but something more subtle. A distance that exists even in crowded places. People move close to each other, stand side by side, sit shoulder to shoulder in trains, yet interactions remain minimal. Conversations are quiet. Eye contact is brief. Everyone seems aware of others, but careful not to intrude. This is not coldness. It is respect. Space is protected. Privacy is valued. Emotions are often held back, not because they are absent, but because they are controlled. And for a visitor, this can feel both comfortable and unfamiliar at the same time. Comfortable because everything is calm. There is no chaos, no confrontation, no unpredictability. You are free to move without being interrupted. Unfamiliar because connection does not happen in obvious ways. You begin to realize that expression here is subtle. It is not always in words, but in gestures, in tone, in attention to detail. But there is another side to this balance. For some, that distance can become isolation. There are people who step away from society, choosing to remain inside their own space for long periods of time. Rooms become their world. Time passes quietly, without interaction. It is not something you see directly as a traveler, but it exists. And it reminds you that the same structure that creates order and calm can also create distance. Because when everything is controlled, expression becomes limited. And yet, this is not the whole story. Because even within that distance, there are moments of warmth. Small, quiet, almost invisible moments that change the way you see everything. And yet, this is not the whole story. Because beyond that distance, beyond the restraint and the silence, there is another side of Japan that reveals itself more slowly. It is not loud, it is not obvious, but it is there. You begin to notice it in everyday life, in small neighborhoods, away from the main streets, where shops open quietly in the morning, a restaurant owner preparing for the day, a customer greeted with a slight nod, a familiar exchange that happens without needing many words. In these spaces, the atmosphere changes. It becomes warmer, more human. You sit at a small counter, close to others, and even without conversation, there is a shared presence. Food is prepared with care. Movements are precise, but not distant. There is attention not just to the task, but to the moment. Service here is not performative. It is sincere. You see it in the way someone takes the time to help you, even if there is a language barrier. In the patience, in the effort, in the quiet intention to make things work. It is not always expressed through words, but it is felt. And slowly, your perception begins to change. What first felt like distance begins to feel like respect. What felt like silence begins to feel like calm. What felt controlled begins to feel considered. Because connection here does not always happen directly. It happens through attention, through care, through small actions repeated every day. And that is what gives the experience its depth. Not just the places you visit, but the way people move within them. Beyond the cities, the experience changes once again. The movement slows, the density fades, the noise disappears, and what remains is space. You travel through smaller towns, quieter regions, places that are rarely shown in the images most people associate with Japan. The landscape opens. Mountains stretch further into the distance, fields replace buildings, roads become empty, everything feels more distant, more still. In these areas, life follows a different rhythm. Shops close earlier, streets remain quiet for longer. The sense of urgency you felt in Tokyo is no longer present. Time feels softer here. You pass through villages where houses stand close together, some carefully maintained, others slowly aging. Wooden structures, tiled roofs, narrow paths that seem unchanged for years. There is beauty here too, but it is quieter, not designed to impress, not framed for attention, just present. And in that presence, you begin to notice something else, a sense of absence. Fewer people, fewer voices, entire streets that feel almost empty. Signs of a population that is getting older, of places that are slowly becoming less active over time. It is not something dramatic, it is subtle, but it is there. And yet, even in that stillness, the care remains. Gardens are maintained, spaces are clean. Details are not abandoned, because the same discipline you saw in the cities exists here too, just expressed differently, more quietly, more slowly. And as you move through these landscapes, between mountains, fields, and small communities that continue at their own pace, you begin to understand something important. Japan is not defined by one image. It is made of many layers, some bright, some quiet, some full, some almost empty, and all of them exist together. After moving through all of these places, something begins to connect, not as a clear explanation, but as a feeling, because what you have experienced is not just a series of locations. It is a way of thinking, a way of approaching space, a way of interacting with others, a way of paying attention. In Japan, care is everywhere. Care in the way objects are placed, care in the way spaces are maintained, care in the way people move around each other. Nothing feels neglected, nothing feels accidental, and that care creates something powerful. It creates beauty, but it also creates responsibility, because to maintain that level of order, that level of detail, that level of consistency requires effort, constant effort. And that is the balance at the center of everything you have seen. Beauty and discipline, calm and control, freedom and structure. They are not opposites. They exist together. And that is why the experience feels so different, because you are not just observing a place. You are moving through a system that has been shaped over time to function in a very specific way. A system that values harmony, a system that values precision, a system that values continuity. And once you begin to understand that, everything becomes clearer. The silence, the movement, the behavior, the spaces, they are all connected. And that connection is what gives the country its identity, not just what it looks like, but how it works. Page 16, conclusion, impact, and transformation. And this is why Japan stays with you, not just as a place you visited, but as something you experienced. Because long after the images fade, what remains is not only what you saw, it is how it felt. The quiet of a temple in the early morning, the movement of a city that never seems to break, the balance between stillness and speed, the attention to detail, the sense of order, the feeling that everything, even the smallest moment, has been considered. And slowly, without realizing it, something changes. You begin to notice things differently, a pause, a gesture, a detail you might have ignored before. You begin to understand that what made this country feel so unique was not just its beauty, it was its awareness. An awareness of space, of others, of time. And that awareness is what connects everything you have seen, from the silence of a forest to the intensity of a city, from the simplicity of a small gesture to the complexity of an entire system. Japan is not just a destination, it is an experience, one that does not try to impress you loudly, but stays with you quietly. And that is what makes it unforgettable. Not just what it shows you, but how it changes the way you see everything after. If this journey moved you, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment telling us which place in Japan you'd most want to experience for yourself. And if you want more documentaries like this, watch the other videos on the channel. There are many more worlds waiting just beyond the frame.